Hello and welcome to another Spanish lesson with me, Eva. Today I will talk about the grid and how it can completely change the way you learn Spanish. Okay, good. So as promised, I will talk about the grid and you're wondering, what is this grid? What does it look like? It's very simple. This is all there is to it. It might be a simple thing to look at and a simple thing to draw, but it will change how you learn Spanish and how you understand and memorize Spanish pronouns, and more importantly, Spanish verbs. And I know Spanish verbs can cause a lot of headache to people who are learning Spanish. This grid will be the best thing since, what do they say? Best thing since sliced bread. Okay, so how does it work? And what this grid represents. When we speak, okay, there is the person who speaks, hopefully not to an imaginary friend, hopefully there's someone listening. So we have the speaker, we have the listener, and sometimes we might talk about a third person who's not present, who's not part of the conversation, not even a third person. It might even be something, an inanimate thing, an object, a place, an event we've been to, okay? So something that is not participating in the conversation, but it is the subject of the conversation, okay? So grammatically speaking, the speaker, the person speaking, is the first person, okay? And we often say that maybe a book or a film or whatever was narrated or written in the first person, okay? Autobiographies, for example, or memoirs are written in the first person because the author speaks of their own experience and talks about it in the first person. I went here and I did that, and then I don't know what happened to me. So the voice of the author, the voice is that of he speaks of his own, he or she, of his own life in first person. The person listening to that story, okay, is the listener. In grammar, the second person. Okay? And then whatever it is that we are talking about is the third person. And again, grammatically speaking, we say third person, but it doesn't have to be the third person, okay? It could be an object, a place, an idea that we are talking about, something abstract. But grammatically speaking, it's the third person, okay? So in English, the speaker, I. If I speak in the first person, then I'm speaking as I. And I'm speaking to you, you're the listener, second person. And if I'm speaking about Mary, Mary is the third person, or if we use a pronoun, it would be she. Same goes if I talk about someone a man, then it's he, and then everything else will simply be it. Okay? I, first person, you, second, and she, he, or it is the third person. If this is, let's see, I'm horrible at drawing. So if this is the speaker, and this one is just listening, this would be the first person speaking, blah, 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 and this one listening is the second person, okay? If this blah, blah, blah is about their, I don't know, car, if someone is talking about their car, this car is then the third person, grammatically speaking. And again, I know a car is not a person, it's an object, but grammatically we just say it's the third person, okay? So in English it would be it, okay? Now, in this setup, we have one speaker, one listener, and one subject, okay? One thing that we are talking about. So this is singular, okay? So I is the first person, singular, because I'm one, I'm unique. You are second person. When you listen to me, you are second person, also singular, also one and unique. And the same goes for the third person. She is only one, he is only one, and it is only one, okay? Sometimes we have a group of people and maybe they're not all speaking at the same time. In fact, I hope they're not all speaking at the same time, that maybe there's one person speaking on behalf of all of them, in which case, let's say it's me speaking on behalf of my family, I will then not say I. If I'm speaking on behalf of all of us, I will say we. Okay, again, not all of us are speaking at the same time, but the person who is doing the speaking, the speaker, is speaking on behalf of several people. And that's why here what we have is plural, okay? Same thing goes for the listener. Maybe you're not listening to me alone. Maybe I'm not addressing or talking to one person only. Maybe I'm addressing a large audience. Maybe there's a group of people, maybe even only two. It doesn't matter, okay? Two is already plural. So as long as there's more than one person listening to me and me talking to them, I will refer to them as you, but you, the plural you, okay? And maybe I'm not talking about one car, maybe I'm talking about a whole car park full of cars, or maybe they're not cars, maybe they are books, maybe they're even people, okay? In which case, it's they, okay? So here we have plural, here we have singular. I is first person singular, and we is first person plural. You, this you, is second person singular, second plural, third singular, and third plural, okay? I've explained this in English with English examples because I wanted you to understand the grid, okay? Why we have these lines and what the spaces in between represent, okay? Top left corner, middle left and bottom left, top right, middle right and bottom right are always there to remind us that this is I, first person singular, you, second person singular, and here he, she, it. Okay, and same here on the right. We, you, and they. Okay, so you need to understand this, and more than just understanding it and being able to maybe recreate it, you need to kind of visualize it. You need to feel this in 3D. Okay, you need to really see it in space. Okay, I, the speaker, you, the person in front of me, he, someone we are talking about, someone I'm talking about and you're listening about. Same in plural. We, it's me and more people. You, this you, is you and more people. And they is, again, a group of people or maybe just a couple. And again, it doesn't even have to be people. It could be an object as well that we are talking about, okay? So you need to understand this. You need to be able to move here. It's like a floor plan, and you need to know how to quickly move from one room to another room, okay? You need to know all the shortcuts, okay? Without having to go, if you have to go from this room here, you need to come here in a second, not going through all the rooms and then arriving at the room that you want to go to, okay? So you need to just go wherever you need to go in a second, okay? And this is why? Because this is how you will learn Spanish verbs, okay? You won't, at the beginning you will have to do it, but eventually, if you want to say they are on their way, or they are late, or whatever, you don't want to start the verb and start going through all the forms until you land on that last one. No, you need to go immediately here, okay? Good. As I said, I started this with English examples because I wanted to make sure that you understand this grid and what these spaces stand for, okay? Now, I'm going to get rid of this English ones, okay? I'm going to get rid of the English ones and I will write the Spanish ones, okay? So, I in Spanish is yo. Yo soy Iva. Yo soy croata. Yo hablo español. Okay? Yo. I. You. Tú. Tú eres mi amigo o tú eres mi amiga. You are my friend. Okay, I don't know if you're a man or a woman, amigo or amiga, you know. So, tú. Okay? He is él and she is ella. Okay? There will be something else here, but I will come to it, okay? In a second. Plural, we, is nosotros. If we're a mixed group, nosotros. If we are a group of only men, but if we are a group that only consists of women, then it's nosotras, us. Okay, so if I say nosotras, you know, it's just women. Okay, if I say nosotros, obviously, if a woman says nosotros, it's a mixed group. But if a man says nosotros, it may be only men, but it might be a mixed group, okay, where there's also women. Nosotros, we. Same here for the plural you. Vosotros, only men or mixed, and vosotras when it's only women, okay? And again, same in third person plural, they. Ellos, mixed or only men, and ellas, only women, they, okay? Now, I said there was going to be one more here. It's not it, like in English. It's another one that we use for persons or people, or rather one person only, because it's singular. But it's used for a person that we have high respect for, that maybe in some kind of hierarchy is higher, is above us. Maybe someone who is much older than we are. Maybe someone we've only met for the first time. They don't necessarily have to be much older. They may be even same age as us, but we've only met them for the first time, and we don't start speaking to them. We don't, in English you would say on first name basis, okay? We don't go and say Mike straight away if we are only meeting Mike for the first time, okay? So maybe in English you would say Mr. Rogers, for example, no? And in Spanish, we would not use tú for Mr. Rogers. That's once you've already established some kind of friendship. Maybe the situation is not so formal, it's more informal, or the actual person tells you, look, let's just switch to, just call me Mike, no? That's how maybe it would work in English. And in Spanish they would say, don't bother with usted, okay? So usted, again, is a formal way of addressing a person that we, again, for one reason or another, there is some kind of authority, higher authority, or in, you know, higher up in hierarchy, older, whatever reason, okay? Even though in English you don't have this word, usted, you would probably simply say Mr. so-and-so, okay? Rather than calling them by their first name, okay? So in those situations, when in English you would say Mr. or Mrs., you have to use usted in Spanish, okay? Usted followed by the verb, okay? And the verb will also reflect, even if you don't say usted, the verb will say, if you are referring to them, if you are addressing them as usted or as tú. Why? Because in Spanish, there will be a different form of the same verb in the same tense. There will be a different form for yo, a different one for tú, a different one here in the third person singular, and 3 different ones here in plural, okay? The verbs change for every single person and every single singular and plural. So when you're learning, I don't know, present tense in Spanish, and you have a verb, and you have to learn how to say I walk, you walk, she walks, we walk, you walk, they walk. As you've seen in English, it's nearly the same every single time. Only the third person singular was slightly different. She walks. In Spanish, they will all be different. Okay? So even if you don't say tú, the verb will give it away. The verb, the form that you use will let everyone know that you are using the tú form, and when you use this one, everyone will know that you are using usted. Okay? Let's see an example with the verbs, okay? For example, the verb to live. I live, I don't know, in Spain. Vivo, vives, vive. Vivimos, vivís, viven. Okay? 6 different forms. This is the grid. Okay? In some textbooks or some material, PDFs, whatever, maybe you find them online, or maybe, I don't know, grammar books or reference books, you will see these 6 forms written like this. Don't use that. Don't study with that, because that doesn't visually give you this information. And jumping from here to here to here to here becomes very, very difficult for you. You need to make it visual. You need to make it almost 3D, okay? You need to know that this one is I, this is you guys, this is either he or she or usted, this is us, this is you, and this is them. And you need to, obviously the first time you start using it, it will not be so obvious straight away, but the more you use it, the more you stick to the grid when you are learning either pronouns, like we've seen here, and these are just the personal pronouns. Then you have the possessives, then you have the direct object and the indirect object and the reflexive pronouns. There's other pronouns as well. And when you learn those, you will also use the grid, okay? I've just given the example of the basic, of the personal pronouns. Yo, tú, él, ella, etc. Okay? Why? These are the first ones to learn, but also these are the ones that go with the verbs. So, yo vivo, I live. Tú vives, you live. Él, he, ella, she vive, he lives or she lives. Usted vive. Even though usted is the person I'm talking to, the person that's listening to me, so in theory, in principle, it should be the second person, because this is the listener. The first person is the speaker, the guy that was here with his mouth open. The first person is the speaker, the second is the listener, and the person in front of me is usted. But we need to mark this difference between tú when we are on the first name basis and usted when we show some kind of respect or formality for this person. And that's why there are 2 different forms. Tú vives, usted vive. Okay? Usted is still the person I'm talking to, but by using this form here, the third person singular, I'm letting this person know, you know, I understand that there's some sort of distance here. Nothing, you know, nothing, I don't know how to say it, nothing wrong with this distance. In fact, very often in Spain, this person will say, "I'll leave it, just use tú," okay? And you will quickly switch to the first name basis, okay? Then, nosotros o nosotras vivimos, vosotros o vosotras vivís, and ellos and ellas viven. Okay? So if I were to take somehow magically this grid off, if I could just peel it off and then place it here, vivo would be with yo, or on top of yo, vives with tú, vive here, vivimos, vivís, viven. Okay? So these two go hand in hand. In fact, I will say one more thing, and that will be the last thing I say on this topic about the grid, because it's so perfectly clear that vivo is yo, and vives is you, and vive is someone we are talking about. Vivimos is all of us, vivís is all of you, and viven is all of them. Because the verb gives us this information as well, not only the meaning of the verb, which is to live, it also tells us who's doing the living. Is it I? Is it you? He or she or us? Because the verb gives us this information as well, the Spanish will very rarely say yo vivo, tú vives, ellos viven. They will very rarely use the pronoun in front of the verb. They will when they want to make a point and say, no, 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 I don't live in I don't know, France. No, you don't live in France. I live in France. Yo vivo en Francia. No, when they need to highlight it, make a point, stress it, yes, they will use it and they have it there if they need it. But most of the time, you will just hear them say, vivo en España. Vives in, I don't know where, Italia. Okay? So, when you are learning verbs, for example, vivir, to live, in the present tense, don't learn them yo vivo, tú vives, él vive. Keep this in your mind. Just go visually or mentally down the grid, well, down and up and down again. But all you say when you practice it is this: vivo, vives, vive, vivimos, vivís, viven. Okay? And as you say these, you go down the grid on the left and then down the grid on the right. And you know that when you say vivo, it's yo or I. When you say vives, you know it's tú, you. When you say vive, you know it's someone else. Vivimos, vivís, viven. Okay? You say this, but you also understand that there's this, all of this behind it. Okay? Good. Okay. This is the grid. And again, it will help you with all the pronouns that you will have to learn and all the verbs in all the tenses. And sometimes you will have to combine the two. You will actually have a verb with the pronoun sort of stuck to it. Okay? So, learn the grid, the singular, first, second, and third person plural, first, second, and third person. And as you learn pronouns, as you learn the verbs and the conjugations, this is a conjugation of the verb to live in the present tense, okay? As you learn the conjugations, just go down the grid, okay? So use the grid, have a piece of paper in front of you every time you practice either pronouns or the verbs. Okay, good. I hope you're enjoying these lessons, and if you are and you want to continue learning Spanish with me, please subscribe to the channel, give these videos a like, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.